Today, what the class is working on is a Ning networking program for the Founding Fathers. What they were required to do was to research a Founding Father. Each student has a different Founding Father, and they researched their historical significance, their economic information, their political influence, and then they had to create a MySpace type of Ning community where they will put their research into a lifelike experience, making it more relevant, where they have to play the Founding Father.
All right, well, I'm Samuel Adams, the cool guy, and well, I'm talking about, right now, I'm posting a blog about the Stamp Act and the Sugar Act and how I'm enraged that Britain has still got a chokehold on America, and that Americans should, they should fight against this, and they shouldn't be accepting the fact that they're taxing us without representation.
With this information, they have to add friends as if the Founding Fathers were in today's day and age, based on similar interests or allies that they had back in the 17 and 1800s. Then they also have to blog about experiences, such as if they were making a diary at that time.
I'm James Otis, the guy from No Taxation Without Representation, and my page is about just literally me. My friends are Dr. Lehman Holmes, Joseph Warren, Cesar Rodney, Abigail Adams, Samuel Adams, Paul Revere. They were part of Sons of Liberty. They were with My Cause, and
I'm writing blogs about how upset I am towards Congress and how they're running this country.
We chose this format so that it's much more relevant to the students. They can take that information and from their daily lives, such as their MySpace knowledge, and utilize it in the classroom. Therefore, they have a little bit more ownership of the project, and they can be more creative with it. Instead of just reading about it and making a poster board, this way it's a collaborative effort where they can actively engage with other students at the same time in real life experience, rather than just getting up and presenting where they're passive learners. They can be actively engaged at all times.
Now watching that clip, I know that if I were to share that with administrators and teachers in my school, most of them would think that it was a pretty amazing use of technology.
Yeah, that's the reaction I get, and this clip came out of a district where I trained the administrators to do walkthroughs. So the heat allowed us to get a little closer. The first thing I look for, besides the fact that she really has used the tools in some amazing ways, is did the kids go beyond existing information? And I really can't see that in the clip that exists. Now, if the kids did all that work stepping into the role of Samuel Adams, one of the other Founding Fathers, if there were a question that they had to answer, like, what would you advise Obama in this issue? Or, how would you deal with the constitutional issue of this? Then the kids would have to push to go beyond existing information. So she's not far off the track and certainly models a lot of the tools. The point really here is to start looking past the stuff and looking at the task that's sitting in there. That's really the point.
Right, just taking it that extra step into that transformative use. I get it, and that's a great vantage point to look at it from. That a lot of people could be lulled into thinking that this was it, we've reached a pinnacle with this kind of work, and yet there's still other layers that could be explored that go higher into that whole taxonomy of synthesizing and creating new information from the old. So I'm going to ask this big, giant question now, and I'm sure there'll be a lot you have to say about it, but not only do I want to know what are some things that leaders and teachers can do to start getting us there, but where does it begin, Bern? How do we start? When we're all at such different stages of access, different stages of implementation, there's got to be some kind of a guiding principle that rules the day. Where does it start? With the teachers, the administrators?
Well, first of all, it's messy because we're a crossover generation that's really bridging what we have always been and trying to stretch into these new cultures and shapes. So if we have the next picture, one place I look at is what's the professional development, and this is really mission critical. Of course, teachers need to learn the tools, but I find that when teachers learn the tools and they're sent off onto their own, I don't care what tool it is or how amazing it is, they still stay within their sort of context of their pedagogies that they use now. So if the point right now is not hardware, but headwear. What's the instructional strategies that you want accelerated in your schools? And if you move in whiteboards or one-to-one initiatives, that is the perfect time to move in the instructional strategies that you expect to see rehearsed, practiced, and mastered. And that's what you keep your eye on measuring, not are teachers doing it and have they learned the skills, but if they have the skills, what do you want to have happen? Here is one of the BFOs that I experienced in all the technology impact studies. If I coded the staff development titles, literacy, adapting, transforming, and then I went out and did observations in the buildings, walkthroughs, or I even coded student work because we gathered up student digital work and coded it. We found almost the same pattern occurring in the observations as in the staff development titles, because the unintended consequences are they learn the tool first and then somewhere maybe they instructionally connect it to some pedagogy that we think has added value. And that would be different than moving through the instruction. If we go to the next slide, I just want to again say we've got great teachers. They're doing great jobs. We just have new territory to go to. So if you would just go ahead and go to the next slide. One of the things I'm looking at is that teachers learn the tools inside of instructional practices. And the storytelling camps that I lead are really about learning 6 or 7 tools, but the goal is to create a piece of information here and learn how to read and write multimedia. And if you go to the next slide, I just say, here's the 2 words. You want kids to be able to rehearse meaning making and then media making. And I don't care what the technology is, that's the rehearsal. And if we get that in place instead of technology in the front line, we're going to have more instructional results. Now, you asked me where a starting place is, and this is not to be flippant. I'm going to ask you to go to the next slide. It turns out that whatever we're doing today is getting us the results. If we don't change instructional strategies, we're not going to have any different results and outcomes for our kids. So along with the tools has to come a resetting of what's the instructional practice and content. Cambridge says instructional technology is going to be demanding something like 30 to 50% change in content and instructional practices. And of course, with the 21st century standards and the net standards, we know that that really is a stretch for people. So here's my comment. I had a wonderful experience with Edward Demings, who is the man who caused all that trouble in Japan, turned it from a junkyard into this, electronic empire. And he was asked at 90 years old in this satellite conference I was in, how long is it going to take to change schools? And I ask people that, and some people say never. Some people say so long that I'll be gone. And, people are really frustrated at the rate of change that schools happen. So people said, oh, yeah, he's an old man, he doesn't know. But he said, it's not going to take any time at all to change. It's going to take a long time to decide. And once you decide, the system will start to organize intentionally towards that. So I have an expression called da chino, which says, if it's important, if it's a commitment we make to our kids, it has to happen. It doesn't matter how many potholes, how hard it is. We have to stay steady to what the sacred work is. And we have very sacred work ahead. And not to get distracted by the stuff, but to stay steady to, our commitment to kids that we're going to make this space for them to be in this world that we'll probably never see. So I'm going to leave it there and say, as a cross-generation, the people I see in this room and my colleagues, I admire us so much to stand there in the fray of all the messes, but I know we can do it if we stay steady and that we know what our commitment is, and it's not about the stuff.